Welcome back, it's Meredith, and today I'm going to be talking through some queer books that I personally really love. This is obviously Pride Month, so happy Pride Month to everybody. And yeah, I just thought I would talk through some queer books that I personally really love. This isn't necessarily a recommendation video because I don't know if everyone will love these, but I just personally really do love them. You can take it as a recommendation or you can just take it as me talking shit. Whichever way you want to take it, go there. So the first one I'm going to talk about is still on my shelf because it is like displayed, but there's a big ray of light over it, which is really rude. But it is none other than a book that I talk about every opportunity I have, and that is The Boy from the Mish. Also, it's this title, this cover in the US, not sure if just the US, but I know at least in the US it is a different title and cover. But this is the Australian version. This is a YA contemporary and it's by an Australian First Nations author. So it does follow a First Nations young boy. He lives on a mission station with his family, and it covers like Christmas and then the moment after Christmas, the moment leading up, like around Christmas time. One of his relatives brings this boy home with her for Christmas, and he has sort of just come out of prison, and so he has to, you know, do good behavior, and the two boys have to share a room. They end up falling in love, and it's a romance, but it is also very much an exploration of learning your sexuality and being brave and standing up for who you are when you're surrounded by people that don't accept you and are homophobic, and how you will sometimes lose people in the process of being who you are in all kinds of areas of life, but unfortunately when you are queer that does happen, but how you're more important than them and they're not worth having in your life. It also covers what it's like to be queer and First Nations, so it covers so much. It's such an important YA book. It's literally to me like the perfect YA book because it has a little bit of romance, but it also has so many good messages, but it's also not sugarcoating things. It's very realistic. It has such a very realistic teen voice. It's very easy to digest. It's just, I don't know, the perfect YA to me, and I just love it and I highly recommend it. It's adorable, it's hard-hitting, it's important, and the author has another book coming out this year which I'm so excited for, so I highly recommend looking out for that book as well. But yes, this is the first queer book on my list that I love. Next, I'm going to talk about the other book that was in the thumbnail, which is The Midnight Girls. This got a 4.5, but I'm thinking if I reread this, it might be a 5 because I think so fondly back on this. Like, I don't know why this book stands out so much, but it just does. So it's a sapphic YA about two witches, and they're kind of rivals, and they're given the same task, which is to get the prince to fall in love with them so that they can then kill him and steal his heart. Their rivalry is turned up even more, but they've never really met. They don't really know much about the other. They just know of their rivalry. And on their journey to the palace, they do end up meeting, but they don't know who the other is, and they do start to fall for each other, and then they realize who the other is, and obviously things change, and it's about the complex feelings that they have. And I really love it because the dynamic is so interesting, because while they're both like evil cutthroat witches that are very morally grey, one is less so, which is this one, and I just love her so much. She just wants to finish what she's doing so that she can go live her own life and have like a cottage and a farm, and like she kind of is the one that's more open to her feelings, and she is the more powerful witch, but she kind of doesn't really care about the rivalry. Like, she just wants to go live her life, and so she's much more open to these feelings that she has, whereas the other witch is much more competitive and wants to win, and she's like denying her feelings. So it's this really interesting dynamic, and it was just so cute. So yeah, I do love this one, and the cover's amazing, and it is by an Australian author, and it's just delightful. Next, I couldn't talk about queer books I love without talking about Akwaeke Emezi. This is an author that I found this year. I do have a vlog reading their books for the first time, so if you want to see my experience, you can go watch it, but it's basically just me being obsessed and loving everything about these books. Like, literally, it's a good time. So Akwaeke Emezi is non-binary and uses they, them pronouns. This is my favorite book by them, which is You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty, and while this does follow a male-female romance, the main characters are both bi, and it does talk about their past relationship. This one has a really good romance that is kind of a spoiler, so I'm not really going to go into this. Just know it's a really taboo, amazing romance, and it is probably still so far my favorite book of the year. I loved this. Then we have Freshwater, which Akwaeke Emezi has basically said is sort of an autobiography. So this is very much a book about spirituality. It follows this character who is possessed by these spirits, and it kind of follows their destructive relationship that they have. It explores their queerness, it explores their life, the way that this relationship affects how they live, and so it's a really interesting, very well written book. Of course, Pet, and this one has a trans main character, and it is about a like utopian world where all of the monsters have been removed, which is corrupt systems, corrupt people, evil people, and then somehow the main character ends up summoning this like creature that has come to remove a monster that they have sensed is in the town. And so it's kind of this journey of who is the monster, where's the monster, and it kind of explores how you'll never really get rid of these bad things in society, and it's really harmful to say that they're all gone. And you need to listen to people, you need to listen to children. When people are saying that there is evil, you need to listen, and how thinking that there is this false sense of everything is safe is completely untrue and often shows your privilege. And so yeah, this explores a lot. It's such a great book. So I absolutely love all the books that I've read by Kweke Emezi, and I need to read the rest of their books, like seriously, because these were all like favorites of mine. Then we have here All the Bad Apples, which is another YA book, and this one is so interesting. So the queer rep in this is that the main character is lesbian, and she has grown up in a very Christian family, and so she really struggles with being accepted by her family, and so she kind of has to keep her sexuality a secret. And her older sister ends up disappearing, and she receives letters from her sister with ways for her to find her. And so this main character goes on an adventure with a bunch of her friends, and there is a female-female romance, but it also is exploring history, women in history, family ties, the way that so many women within a family's history will have experienced the same things, which is silencing of voice, shame for sexuality, and how that experience is handed down, the generational experience that a lot of women have, and how now is such a time to stand up for that and stop that cycle from continuing. And so it's such an important book. It just makes you really think. It's so clever, it's so beautiful, and I really did love this book. I think it's so clever, so thought-provoking. Then we have She Who Became the Sun. So this one is about two children who grow up in poverty, and they're both given like their future tellings, and one is destined to basically be a failure and nothing will happen, and then the brother is destined for greatness, amazing things. When the brother ends up dying, the sister takes on the identity, basically just becomes the brother, and so they go to this school, they train, and it's about fulfilling your personal destiny. And it's so clever, it's so intricate, it's very military focused. There is another side character in this as well who's very morally grey and has this like male relationship, but it's kind of like toxic, so I wouldn't say it's like amazing, but it's still very like compelling and interesting to read about. The main character is also quite morally grey, and it explores their gender identity and their sexuality, which is really interesting to explore, and I'm looking forward to learning more about that in the next book. But yeah, this is such a fantastic, you know, adult fantasy. It's very complicated and intricate, but if you like those kind of books, this one has some great rep in it, and it's just also just like a really good book. So yeah, I really loved this one. Then we have the 2019 Booker Prize winner, which is Girl, Woman, Other. This one is literary fiction. It's a little bit confusing. The way it's written is quite different. There's no like speech marks. It's also a book that will just like jump paragraphs really suddenly, like in the middle of a sentence. It's very much the structure of this book is very much just whatever the author wanted to do, and it works really well. And this covers a bunch of different women and one non-binary character, and we're following the different relationships. There's a lot of queer characters in this, and it just explores their lives, the ways that these lives also tie in together. But yeah, it's fantastic, it's brilliant. There's so many stories that really move you, and yeah, there's a lot of stories in this that have really stuck with me. So yeah, I really did love this book. I think it's so deserving of winning the Booker Prize as well, because it's just fantastic. And then the last physical book I'm going to talk about is The Charm Offensive, which is a male-male romance. This is so fucking cute. It's set on The Bachelor, well, not The Bachelor, but like basically The Bachelor, and it's about The Bachelor and a romance with his like assistant. Bachelor actually has anxiety, and so he really does require a lot of assistance from, you know, his personal assistant, and so they end up getting quite personal with the job. Through that, they have feelings for each other, and so this romance blossoms, and it's so wholesome, it's so sweet. Sorry, I'm just realizing how faded the spine is. I don't know if it's meant to be like that or it's just like faded on my shelf. Does anyone else own this book, and is yours like that? Anyway, I've gone off topic. This is just a cute adult romance, and it's adorable, and I love it, and I really want to reread it, because every time I think about it I just feel so happy, because it's just so sweet. So that's all the physical books I'm going to go over, but I do have a few that I read either via ebook or audiobook. So one is my newest obsession, which is Failed Princesses. If you've watched some of my videos lately, I am a little bit obsessed with this. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. So it follows these two characters, and one is like the cool popular pretty girl, and one is the like geeky nerdy unpopular girl. The pretty girl ends up finding out that her boyfriend has been cheating on her, and when she approaches him, he's really nice to her. She gets really upset, and the other girl does notice this. She accidentally does witness this interaction, and so she ends up kind of like comforting the other girl, but she's like, I hate this annoying popular bitch, but you know, I'm gonna like kind of comfort her, but I really just want her to shut up. The poppy girl thinks that she's like fully like comforting her, and so she's like, oh my god, you saved me, let's be best friends. So they end up like becoming reluctant friends. The reason that I don't recommend this is because I don't think it has the best message, because the pretty popular one is like, I'm gonna make you pretty, and so she like works to make her look prettier, which is not the best message. So after the first few, that kind of just gets dropped, and it is this like beautiful, wholesome female romance in high school, and it goes through like their friends, and the popular girl is so like protective and like jealous of the other one, and it's so cute. I don't know, I'm just obsessed with it a little bit, but it's so adorable, and I loved it. Then I do have A Lady's Desire to talk about, which is a historical romance novella. It's female, and I also really loved this. I don't even know what it was. It was just a really simple novella, but I don't know, it just hit me so hard in the feels. It follows these two women that were best friends. They grew up together, they were in love with each other, but because of the time period, it wasn't acceptable for them to be together. And so one of them ends up marrying the other's cousin, and they end up losing touch. They don't talk anymore, but then the cousin dies, which I think is just like the biggest sacrifice characters ever made in a book. Like, thank you for dying so these characters could be together. And they get back in touch, and they, you know, their huge attraction, love for each other has not gone anywhere, and it's just this angsty, beautiful, short little story, and I loved it. There's just something about sapphic historical romance yearning that is something else that I just love and eat up. So if you have any recommendations, please let me know, because I'm looking for more, because there's not enough. There's like barely any, and I don't know why, because it's like a hidden gem of a genre. It's amazing. So yeah, I really loved this one. And then I'm going to talk about King and the Dragonflies, which is a short, I don't know if this is a novella, but this one's also very short. It's a middle grade, and it is about King, whose brother ends up passing away, and he believes that his brother is turned into a dragonfly. And so it explores that, but it also explores him being a young boy learning that he is gay, and knowing that someone you looked up to a lot in life was homophobic, and the brother was the homophobic one, and so the brother has passed away. And so it's King grappling with that, because he can't talk to his brother anymore, but he looked up to his brother, and knowing that he wouldn't be happy with what you're doing, and the feelings of guilt, and how it's important to be yourself and stand up for yourself and be true to who you are. And it's just this really nice coming of age story, but I think it's so important, because I think it is something we do when we're young. We really do look up to certain people a huge amount, because when we're young, I guess we're naive, and we believe wholeheartedly that we believe in someone and trust someone and look up to them. And then when we get older, we realize that they're trash, or that we don't actually align with their beliefs, and learning that that's okay, and learning to think for yourself. I think that this just does cover something so important for young people. So I really do love this. I think it's so important, and it really stands out when I think of queer books that I've loved. I always think of this book, so I really need to read more books by this author. But yeah, that is going to do it for some queer books that I love. I'm sure there's more. These were just some that I thought of off the top of my head, picked off my shelves. So yeah, I would absolutely love to know in the comments some queer books that you love. Recommend some books for us all for Pride Month. And yeah, thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in my next video. Hopefully you'll stick around. But until then, bye!